We have got to get Tulsi Gabbard confirmed, and the Democrats are coming up with the most ridiculous reasons on the Intel Committee not to let her even go into the hearing and start the hearing where they can ask her as many tough questions as they want. They're saying they haven't gotten enough info from the FBI. This is someone who is active duty in the military. She has a top security clearance. She has had that and she's gotten higher security clearances as she's been in the military for over 20 years. So it's not like someone who has never had a security clearance got nominated to this position and the FBI is starting at zero. They're starting at probably 98% of what they need and maybe a little bit more tied to this specific position so that they can get that report to the U.S. Senate. But the senators say, well, that's not enough. And so we've got two issues we've got to work on here to make sure Tulsi gets, one, her opportunity to appear before the committee and then to get a vote on the floor of the U.S. Senate. But two is to make sure the FBI is not withholding documents and research and information they already have because they happen to dislike her policies and her views on how the intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies have been run.
Tom Cotton, who's the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, wants to hold both John Ratcliffe for the CIA director position and Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, their hearings early next week. His goal is to get these hearings started so that we can start getting to votes on January 20th when President Trump is sworn in. But the Democrats have picked their fight. They've drawn their line in the sand. They're going after Tulsi Gabbard. Mark Warner, who's the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, is saying that Tulsi Gabbard hasn't provided the enough material, the required vetting material for them to go forward with this. So the Democrats are forcing a delay in this hearing, forcing a delay for the position of Director of National Intelligence. And he's trying to make it seem as though because she hasn't provided these materials that she's somehow obstructing this process. But in reality, her FBI background check, the work for that was done and completed and sent to the FBI last week. That should also be expedited because she is someone who holds that high security clearance. Therefore, they already have much of this material. They don't have to start from zero and work their way up in this background check. But then also, they're saying she didn't provide a questionnaire. She provided the first questionnaire already, and they've given her a deadline of today to provide the second one, which she said she'll comply with. And then the final thing is the ethics statement that they want signed. Many of these nominees, because of the snow and the offices being closed in D.C., haven't been able to receive them yet because people haven't been in the office. It doesn't mean that they're not going to have it. So they're trying to play this game and pick this fight and make it be public that Tulsi Gabbard isn't playing along. She's not being helpful. She's obstructing this process. We have to delay her hearing. But in reality, she's doing the things that need to be done to go before the Senate. And I think you should hear from Elizabeth Warren because she's been an outspoken critic on many of the nominees, but she gets pretty nasty, uses the old rhetoric on Tulsi Gabbard.
Why is Donald Trump doing this? And I think the answer is, let's have a big distraction and several more questions so we don't spend more time on Pete Hegseth, the nominee to be the head of the Department of Defense. So we don't spend more time on Tulsi Gabbard, who has been in the pocket of Putin and is not someone who should be trusted with our secrets, so that we don't spend more time on Robert Kennedy's views on vaccines. In other words, we have a job in front of us right now, and that is advise and consent on the nominees who are there to run our government.
This is what the Democrats' last attempt to do is to really prevent the Trump administration from actually beginning. Because the president can do a lot by executive order, and he can do a lot with his team, but what he can't do is makes it very difficult is to really implement big policy changes without the personnel in place to do it. And the bureaucrat holdovers, not only will they not do the work, they disagree with it. So you've got to get your people in place. You have to have a cabinet to govern the U.S. government right now. A lot of these agencies, that's the issue, is the culture within the agencies, so that the best people and probably a lot of the great people that work inside these intelligence agencies are being rewarded, are able to do their job without fear of being fired because of political correctness, and just, again, can focus their time on getting the bad guys before they hurt Americans and tracking that. So you want to have tough congressional hearings in the U.S. Senate? Have tough hearings. Let the American people see it. But it's like they're afraid to have the hearing with Tulsi Gabbard. And I think that's because so many Americans, including a lot of independent Americans, support where she is on issues.
Tulsi Gabbard, one of the nominees that you could vote for?
Well, I met with her. In fact, I think I've met with virtually all of them. And the ones that I haven't, they're on my schedule, RFK and Governor Noem. So I'm happy to meet with all of them. And that's also part of this. I don't know why that was controversial. I mean, I got a lot of blowback just, even to meet with them. And to me, I see that as just doing my job. And I'm going to have a conversation with anyone that would like to have a conversation with me. And if someone believed everything that's been written or said about me was true, I mean, you can't possibly know me, or I think I could know her either, just based on someone read. But I want to sit down and have a conversation, and I'm really glad that I've done that. And some of these nominees I'm going to vote for.
I think where he's going is, well, listen, a president got elected. This is who he chose. They're willing to meet with me. If we could have the discussion on the issues I care about, if we could come to a middle ground, that's as much as I can hope for and want in someone who's obviously going to be nominated, a party very different than mine. And I'm not going to be afraid to meet with it. But the left and leadership, they don't want you to even meet because it's a lot easier to then be group think and be nasty in those committees if you've never sat across that person and had to actually have a discussion with
them. Well, but he's sitting there on a Fox News set with Katie Britt. Yeah. This is someone who's taking, talk about a moment where we've kind of had a flip, which has happened now multiple times. And I've said this. We've seen people grow and change over the last few years. They're taking also taking the temperature of their own state and their own areas. We saw what happened in Pennsylvania.
Fetterman has said he's not rooting for Trump to fail, which seems like, yeah, right, that should be the right thought process as an elected official, but that's not what you see out of the Democrat Party this year. Right. You shouldn't want your president to fail, even if you don't believe in their policies, because you don't want the failure of America.
Right.
But he said that gets him in trouble.
We want to make sure that, again, that these aren't put on hold where it gets hold on indefinitely, and then these important agencies don't have directors, and then we have another attack, and we still don't have a director that oversees all the intelligence agencies except one who's a holdover from the bureaucracy. Let's get these appointments in. Let's get people like Tulsi Gabbard, make sure that they've got their committee hearings scheduled so that we can move to their votes of the full Senate.